this would be way more fun if we're actually answering things that you guys want to talk about. It sounds like this particular group right here, this little subgroup we've got, you all are already kind of involved in athletics or sports management in some way, shape, or form already. But if you guys are curious about it, if you already know exactly what it is you want to do, awesome. We would love to talk about that. But if there's things that maybe you want to pursue, or there's things that you want to also do outside of the sports world or outside of the coaching world, that's probably something that we can speak more to as well. And then for anybody that's online, if they want to type in questions or they want to interrupt, again, what we'll do will be a lot more, I think, enjoyable if we're hitting on areas you guys actually want to talk about. So, you want me to go first or do you want to go first?
You got it. Take it away.
All right. Now I get to actually do this the right way. I always used to make fun of my professors when they would not look at the camera. So now I can do it. So are we already good recording?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So my name's Cole Chisholm, and I work in the Arkansas State Athletic Department. I got here in July of 2020, which was a really fun time to start a new job. I work on the academic, no, I do not work on the academic, that's you. I work more on the athletic administration side. So obviously this is a good group to kind of say that too. We have volleyball, we have men's basketball, we have women's basketball, we have football, we have all these sports. Anytime I tell somebody I work in the athletic department, they say, oh, do you work with X sport? No, I actually work with all the sports. I just do it from more of the facilitation standpoint. So like literally today, right now, things I'm working on, getting tickets available for our baseball road game at Arkansas, working with volleyball to get season tickets launched. We are currently renewing football, men's and women's basketball. Yesterday, somebody asked me about softball program. Every day can be something different. So that's kind of just a kind of brief tidbit about what I do. I was a sport management major at Texas A&M University. Yeah, there it is. I graduated in May of 2013, but I actually started my full-time internship with the Colorado Springs Sky Sox. They were the AAA affiliate of the Rockies at the time. So, like, I know in this area there's a lot of Cardinals fans. So Nolan Arenado, he was with the Rockies when I was there. Like guys like Charlie Blackmon, all those dudes. That's when they were just getting going. So I started there, I did that for a year, and then I got offered a full-time job, so I did that for another year. From there I went and worked at Baylor for 2 years. I did ticket sales and kind of donor work, lower level. And then from there I went to the University of Missouri. I was there for 3.5 years. I still did some ticket sales, and I eventually oversaw their ticketing team from a sales standpoint, but I actually did a lot of operational stuff. I got to travel with football, men's basketball, and then I had responsibility for baseball and volleyball as well. So I go to postseason tournaments, do player guest tickets, put their sports online, get everything selling, moving that stuff around, kind of driving a lot of the revenue that goes into the athletic department. So it's just kind of a brief history of that. And then here at Arkansas State, my role is kind of being defined. When we came out here, my wife actually got a teaching position on campus. So she does political science. So we really couldn't have two more different areas, but we had a lot of fun being here. We're figuring out kind of how we tweak Arkansas State, put it where it's in a position to really, when we hit our mark, because I think our mark is coming, actually be in a position to successfully move forward. When I was at Baylor, 2010, Robert Griffin III was there. He won the Heisman Trophy. In my humble opinion, Baylor was not totally ready for the success that was coming their way, and they missed on some opportunities to capitalize on that. I don't want that to be said of Arkansas State. So that's kind of a brief summary of what I do. So here's me.
Hi everyone. I work in a completely different side of athletics than Cole does, but I serve as the Director of Student Athlete Support Services and Development here at Arkansas State. And if I got to this position, I was a student athlete at the University of Oklahoma as a part of the women's golf program. On graduation, I served as an academic mentor through graduate school. So I did my sports management undergrad through business, and I did my master's program in adult and higher education with a focus in intercollegiate athletic administration. Through kind of the relationships I made through golf, I was able to do summer internships, get really involved, because during the school year I was obviously competing and playing a lot. So in the summer I got to have some great opportunities. I worked at Nike for a summer. I got to work for a Golf Coaches Association for the summer and work over in England. Portland for a summer. So I was really able to use the connections that I had made to be able to kind of look at different areas of what working in sports looked like, not specifically just within college athletics. Upon graduation, though, I had an opportunity to work with the men's golf program to build their foundation. So I did a lot of fundraising, and then my full-time job. So I was kind of working two positions at once because I didn't really know what area I wanted to go into. I worked a 9-to-5 job on campus, so I could spend my evenings and weekends doing programming and fundraising, which led me to going back to college athletics in my full-time role at the University of Oklahoma as a coordinator of operations and events. So I did a lot of our kind of administrative, overseeing personnel, did a lot of our events, planning a lot of our NCAA bylaws. I can do that kind of off the top of my head. And then worked back to going kind of to the student athlete focus. I really miss those connections I was having one-on-one with students and the growth and development. We see a lot of students come to college, me included, really only identifying myself as an athlete and not able to really separate or really think past that because I'm so focused every day on becoming a better student athlete, and the skills and the lessons that I learned from doing that were fantastic, but I wasn't getting that work experience that I was needing, or maybe having those critical conversations about what is it that I'm good at besides being a competitor. Do I really like working with people? Do I want to work at a desk all day? Those conversations I didn't have. And, you know, I kind of thought going to college I could be a teacher, a lawyer, an engineer, or a doctor. I didn't know what my options really were. Sports kind of came open to me. I didn't know that it could be a role specifically. And so, moving to last August, my husband and I actually are both in sport. He's the women's assistant golf coach here, and I serve in my role. So we are college athletics through and through in our life. But my role here primarily, I serve as academic coordinator, so NCAA eligibility, really making sure that our student athletes are hitting all of their progress towards degree requirements. So GPA, making a certain percentage after each semester. And as I was saying before, that's super important, and I love that that's something that the NCAA has in place to ensure our students are getting on their best path to receive a degree. But if they leave here in 4 or 5 years and are not ready and confident moving to their next steps after and having a decision in some way of what they want to do next, whether that's they do want to go play professionally, they need to know what a contract negotiation looks like. They need to know how to vouch for themselves and have conversations. If they're going into their first full-time role, showing up late to work, like they show sometimes late to a meeting with me, that's not going to fly either. So really developing those skills and what they need, financial literacy. A lot of our students are on full ride scholarships but don't save money, and so they leave here with an empty bank account. But if you do it the right way, invest, you might be able to walk out of here with a down payment on a home. So starting to have those critical conversations the second they walk in, and knowing that those decisions also matter. Maybe at that time they don't know it matters as much as playing time, but being able to develop those conversations and skills, again, not at all a coach here, but maybe more of a life coach, I would say, is what we really focus on. But being able to ensure that we give you the tools, we give you the toolbox, we give you the instructions, but we're not going to build it for you. That's your responsibility. And then being sure that they always have something that they can call kind of in 5 years should they have a question or need something. So we're really kind of you get to see them all day, every day, which sometimes can be a struggle, as I'm sure our athletic trainers know too. You need some time to get away from students. But really do love my job and think that it is a very important part of the student athlete experience. Granted, I know a lot of you have seen the transfer portal. We know name, image, and likeness is a huge conversation right now. So a lot of things are changing within the NCAA, so I'm really interested to see in the next 3 to 5 years what my shop looks like, what our conversations look like, because they definitely are changing. But from a student support services component, I think it's going to look a lot different in 3 to 5 years, and my role might be completely 180. But I love it every day. I love teaching, I love being a student. So that's how I got to where I am.
So for those of you that are going to Zoom in or you're Zooming in currently, if you have questions, obviously please feel free to answer this or send those in. But for those that are here right now, at some point you have probably thought about what the next steps look like after you complete higher education. I am curious what you guys want to pursue. So what's a dream job? What's a job that you really want to have? Or what field do you really want to be working in, and I'm going to ask each one because I think that'll kind of help drive the conversation. So, you start.
Yeah, I'm super interested in like operations, event management stuff. So
Event management, okay, that's not a normal one that you hear, but it is maybe the most important. Can't have a game with the lights on or not. So I do want to talk about that for sure.
Just going to continue
Coaching, okay. Which again, you can't have a game if you don't have coaches. So that's nice to have as well.
I mean, you're cool, but it's not going to be a very
It's
good.
not gonna be very
There's
good.
going to be some broken rules and ribs.
kind of similar in like team operations and coaching.
Team operate. So there's event operations, but then if you're closer to a team, are you maybe more talking like basketball operations?
Yeah, I mean,
Kinda
we're
like a
coaching,
Drew
but
Wilson.
that kind of goes with it.
Okay.
I'd like to stay in college coaching.
Coaching. Well, so far we've got operations, events, coaching, operations, team specific, and coaching. Break them all.
I'm an athletic trainer for the volleyball team, so I mean, it's kind of what I want to do, just to have my own team. But I guess the ultimate goal would be like a Power 5.
Okay. So to everybody, just kind of real quick, does everybody want to stay in the realm of collegiate athletics, or is there anybody looking that wants to really go the professional route? Professional route? Okay. And it's a good delineation. From my side, they're two very different things. From a coaching standpoint, I am 100% certain that there are differences. But like, and I'll get into this a little bit. The way that I view professional versus collegiate is totally different kind of ballgame for me. I don't know exactly what that looked like for you, but you can probably speak to that a little bit.
So yeah, obviously academics is not going to be a component of a professional sports program, but there are
Financially speaking.
financially speaking, yes. For a full-time role, it'll be more of a player development personnel. So where we do community service in our house, the outreach programming would be there, the personal development, so that financial wellness connecting. A lot of people that go and play professionally, after they are done, their bank account is gone. A lot of our students don't see financial wellness practice in their homes prior to. Those conversations are hard to have. I grew up specifically with my parents saying, like, we don't talk about finances with other people. That's in house. It's in our family. But those conversations at the college level need to be had, especially like I said, when our student athletes want to go play professionally, they need to have somebody that knows how to handle that money, because if you win the lottery, a lot of people start calling you and saying, hey, remember me? So you see those conversations. A lot of professional sports teams have somebody like my role there, just operating differently, but having those critical conversations. Same thing if you get on, you get interviewed after a game, you got to say the right things. We've heard people that don't say the right things and what happens to them. So a lot of those conversations are happening, but the role definitely looks a lot different, so to say as well.
Kind of going off of that, because everything you guys are talking about is what I would consider almost a more internal role. It is inward focused. You are focused on developing what is in place and improving what is in place, infrastructure-wise, team-wise, facilities-wise. That's what this kind of group specifically is really speaking to. When I look at a collegiate athletic department, I break it down. There's the internal side, which I would say is pretty much everybody in this room for the most part, and then there's the external side, which is the revenue generation side, the fulfillment side, still logistics, but not quite. So I'll give an example. Event operations. I used to work at the University of Missouri. There's a guy there, Tony Workis. Well, he just left. There was a guy named Tony Workis there. He's there 8 or 9 years. Excellent at what he did. Excellent. He was the leader. He had 3 people underneath him. And then below that, they had what they call basically event leads, or intern leads. And they would actually run the smaller sports. And then they would facilitate the larger sports. And so an event lead, he had Brittany was, she's still there. Brittany was solely responsible for softball. But on football game days, she was also the one that I believe handled all the officials. So she actually facilitated getting them on and off the field, moving them out pretty quickly. In the SEC, there's actually a rule that in SEC football games, you have to have a vehicle waiting to escort the officials out of the stadium instantly. I was at a road game we were playing at South Carolina. It was not a good game if you were a Mizzou fan. it was poorly called game, and there was rain delays. There was a lot of everybody had a reason to kind of be mad. Well, their event management person, whoever that was handling them, they had the car running, the doors were open, the trunk was open. They were standing at the trunk, the officials would hand them the bags, they would place the bags in the car, shut the trunk as the other doors were going. That game was over. Before I'm texting my wife, hey, we're getting ready to fly back, the officials have left, and they're probably thinking about what's for dinner on the way to the airport. Just a very small piece, but a critical piece, right? Because you do that 99 times right, amazing. But one time that you don't get them in there, and the car gets blocked, or somebody throws something, that is what blows up on national television. That's what everybody sees. I think it was maybe a decade ago when Marcus Smart entered the stands and was getting into it with a fan. I think he was at Oklahoma State. This was a Texas Tech basketball game. Everybody remembers it. Texas Tech probably did things right almost every other time, but that's what we remember. Well, I'm on a little bit of a tangent, but that's why the internal components of things are so key. I consider what I do more of an operational role and an external facing decision. So, right, we generate money. Okay, well, that sounds pretty straightforward, but how do you receive the money? Where does that money go? What is that money obligated to? Additionally, is it set up to actually be done online? Are you communicating to people when your deadlines are? All of those types of things that flow into it. Training your staff to be able to have conversations. Well, how does the tax law changing for Arkansas affect how we collect money for our school and for our student athletes? That's kind of the stuff that I get to weed into. So, any kind of just questions so far, any specifics that you guys would like to talk about? Any questions? Fine. We'll answer anything as truthfully and as honestly as we possibly can.
This isn't a question, but I went to undergrad at Mizzou.
Oh yeah. What was your experience at Mizzou?
I loved it.
Yeah. Yeah. Favorite place to eat in Mizzou? At Columbia.
Favorite place to eat? Probably Flat Branch or Addison's.
Both are awesome, but we're gonna choose Flat Branch because the pretzels are amazing.
That's what we're going. There's sweet teas.
Yeah, very good. So I guess when you guys are taking those next step forwards right now, like, do you all feel today, this group of 5, specifically that's here and anybody that's watching, do you feel today that you are in a position to make a jump from higher learning to professional? Does it concern you? Does it not concern you? Percentage-wise, where do you think you're at? 100% you're ready to jump in. 0% you want to be in school for the rest of your life. Where do you?
I still have one more year of grad school, so like after this summer. And so, even now I'm still learning things that I have to take athletic training. Not necessarily like medical related, but like outside like billing and insurance and stuff like that. So I don't think I'm ready to like be on my own officially. But
I guess
maybe this next year I'll feel better about it.
Let me rephrase this question because I was in a very similar position, and I want to make sure I say this right. What's probably your number one concern to be ready to go professionally? What's that? What's that thing that you feel like if I had a grasp on this, I could figure out the rest of it? And I know it's a more open-ended question. But.
Yeah. I really just think it's the experience. Like, if the more experience I have, the more comfortable I am. And I don't know.
Okay.
Because it's hard to pinpoint one thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. What do you think? Just getting ready to jump from college landscape, learning, everything focused on developing to implementing. What was the biggest thing that you probably really took away from that first year?
The biggest thing, in total honesty, that I took away was, and I'm still working on it. Granted, I've been working for a long time. I love to work. I've always been a very hands-on person, and a lot of you, it sounds like, with coaches, athletic training facilities, like you love to be on your feet. You love doing that, and I'm willing to bet that in your life you're probably relatively busy and just like doing. For my biggest adjustment was that I now have a job, right? And that now became what I focused my time and energy on, and I let other parts of my development, not even development, but other parts of my life aside that I didn't know that I was maybe missing out on. And athletics is so important to me that I let my job consume a lot of who I was at the time, and maybe set aside like, oh hey, mom and dad, I don't have time to see you, or hey, I don't have time to make this work, or friends that I had in college, and so being able to immediately have those discussions with yourself, and our students are that way too, and you're probably like that. There are other things than just your job that are important as part of your growth and development, but a part of just your life holistically too. And I didn't recognize that at first because I was so ready to go and prove myself and show everyone that like I have what it takes. I want to be the leader here. I know the position that I want in 5 to 10 years, and I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that happens because I have that competitive nature that sometimes I wish I didn't have. But then sometimes now I'll work too late and then I miss the dinner with my husband. And those are things that I maybe can set some boundaries for myself for. That might not be something I missed out on. But that's for me my biggest, and then also understanding taxes. Signing up for your benefits. If you get a full-time role and then they give you that form for what to fill out, I had no idea what I was doing. HR training, all of that. Know what you're doing, you know what you're signing up for, and be sure that you know what questions to ask. You've probably never been asked them before, but those are probably my biggest. Well, that was a little scary, but remember that it's one of those.
So, if I'm hearing you correctly, it sounds like making sure that you're not losing